Hello and welcome to the next edition of the HP Discover podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing sponsored discussion on IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Our next innovation case study interview highlights how Conservation International in Arlington, Virginia, is using new technology to pursue more data about what's going on in tropical forests and other ecosystems around the world. As a nonprofit, they have a goal of a sustainable planet, but we're going to learn how they've learned to measure what was once unmeasurable and then to share that data in order to promote change and improvement. To learn how they're doing that, we're joined by Eric Fegraus. He's the Director of Information Systems at Conservation International. Welcome, Eric.
Great. Thank you, Dana. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, first, the relationship with HP. Conservation International, I think, announced back at Discover in Barcelona something called HP Earth Insights. What is that all about?
So HP Earth Insights is a partnership between Conservation International and Hewlett-Packard. And it's really about bringing technology to the forefront of some of the programs within Conservation International. And so what we've been able to do is bring the analytics and kind of the data-driven approach to build indices of the wildlife communities in tropical forests and be able to monitor them in near real time.
So I'm very intrigued by this concept of being able to measure what was once unmeasurable. What do you mean by that?
So, and this is really a telling line in that we really don't know what's happening in tropical forests. We know some general things. We know we can use satellite imagery and see how forests are increasing or decreasing from year to year, from time period to time period. But we really don't know the finer scale measurements. We don't know what's happening within the forest, what animal species are increasing, what are decreasing. And so through some technology that we have out in the field, what we call camera traps, which take images of photos or take images of the animals as they pass by, and there's also some temperature sensors in them. But through that technology and through some of the data analytics, we're able to actually evaluate and monitor those species over time.
And one of the interesting concepts that we've seen here at HP Big Data is the notion that for a certain quantity of data, let's say 10,000 data points, you can get magnitude of order more inference points. How does that work for you all? Even though you're getting a lot of data, how does that translate into even larger insights?
So, yeah, I mean, we are collecting. We have some of the largest data sets in terms, in our field, in terms of camera trapping data and wildlife communities. But within that, you also have to have a modeling approach to be able to utilize that data, use some of the best statistics to transform that into some meaningful data products, and then have the IT infrastructure to be able to handle it and store it, and the data visualization tools to really have those insights pop out at you.
And so not only are you involved with HP in terms of the Earth Insights project, you're a consumer of HP technology. Tell us a little bit about Vertica and HP Haven, if that also is something you're involved with.
Yeah, so we are, actually all of our servers are running HP ProLiant. They're HP ProLiant servers. We have created an analytical space within our environment using the HP ProLiant servers as well as HP Vertica. And that's really kind of the backbone of our analytical environment. We're also using R, and we're now exploring with distributed R within the Vertica context. And then in terms of Haven, we're in the beginning stages of exploring some other parts of Haven, and in particular the HP Cloud, autonomy, and a few other concepts.
So let's talk a little bit, Eric, about what you get when you do good data analytics and how it, in a sense, changes the game in a lot of industries, not just conservation. And I'm thinking about being able to project into people's understanding change. So for someone to absorb an understanding that things need to happen in order for things to improve, there's a sense of convincing. What is big data bringing to the table for you when you go to governments or companies and try to promulgate change in these environments?
So really, from our perspective, I mean, what we want to do is we want to get the best available data, the best science, and the best technology, the right technology, And we need data at the right spatial scales and the right temporal scales. And then when we package all this together, we can then present kind of unbiased information to decision makers, and which can lead to hopefully good sustainable development and conservation decisions. And so that, of course, you never have control of which way legislation or regulations can go, but our goal is really to bring that kind of factual information to the people that need them.
And one of the interesting things for me too here at the Big Data Conference is how people are using different data sets, in some ways from areas that you wouldn't think would have any relationship to one another. But then when you join and analyze those data sets, you can come up with some very astounding results. Is this the case with you all? Are you not only gathering your own data sets, but finding the means to jibe that with other data and therefore come up with other levels of empirical analysis?
We are. I mean, a lot of the analysis today has been focused on the data that we've collected within our network. Obviously, there is a lot of other kind of big data sets out there that, for example, governments and weather services are collecting that are very relevant to what we're doing, and we're looking at trying to utilize those data sets as best we can. Of course, you also have to be careful. One of the key things we want to do is look for patterns, but we want to make sure that the patterns we're detecting and the correlations we're doing all make sense within our scientific domain, right? We don't want to create false correlations and improbable correlations.
And among those correlations that you've been able to determine so far, we heard in a presentation earlier at the conference about a 12% of species are declining in the tropical forest thanks to your team monitoring program. And they're many cases not yet perceived as being endangered. So maybe you could just share some of the findings, some of the outcome from all this activity.
Yeah, so we're actually working on a paper that we're going to be putting out shortly here, a peer-reviewed paper. But that's one of the insights that's a little it's a little telling, because the species are ranked by whether they're considered endangered or not. And so species that are considered least concern, for example, we assume they're doing okay. So you wouldn't expect to find that those species are actually declining, and that can really serve as an early warning, kind of a wake-up call to protected area managers and government officials in charge of those areas to say, hey, there's actually some unexpected things happening here. The things that we thought were safe are not that safe.
And another, for me, telling indicator was that on an aggregate basis, perhaps some species are being measured and there isn't any sense of a danger or a problem, but that when you go localized, when you look at specific regions and ecosystems, that you develop a different story. So is there an ability for your data gathering to give you more tactical and insights that are germane to specific areas?
Yeah, that's one of the really nice things about the team network and a lot of the work that CI does, that we really, we work across the globe. So even though we're using the same methodologies, the same standards, whether we're in the Amazon or whether we're in a forest in Asia or Indonesia, pick your country where we work, it's really that we can have results that are important locally, but then as you aggregate them up through subnational level efforts or national level or even continental levels, that's we're really trying to be able to have the data flow up and down those spatial scales as needed.
So I've also spoken to some folks here who express a sense of relief that they can go at whatever data they want and have a sense of confidence that they have systems, platforms that can handle the scale and the velocity of that data. It's a sort of a freeing attitude that I don't have to be concerned at the data level. I can go after the results and then determine the means to get the analysis that I need. Is that something that you also share, that you feel technically with your partnership with HP and with others, of course, that this is about the determination of the analysis and the science, and you're not limited in a sense by some sort of a speeds and feeds barrier?
Yeah, I mean, this gets at kind of a larger issue within, I think, the conservation community, the nonprofits and the environmental consulting firms, in that, traditionally the IT and technology has been all about keeping the lights on, right? Making sure everyone has a laptop, there's a SAN that people can share data. But the problem has really been, and it's starting to change, it's changed some over the last 10 years, is bringing the technology and the analytics and the tools to the programs, the kind of the mission-critical, business-driven programs that are really doing the work. And so one of the great outcomes of this is that we've pushed that technology to a program like Team, and we're getting the cutting-edge technology, the analytics program cutting-edge technology that a program like Team needs in their hands. And so, which is really changing the dynamic compared to the status quo.
So scale really isn't the issue. It's your priorities and your requirements for the scientific activity.
Yeah, I think so. It's making sure the technology meets the requirements and the scientific objectives and the program objectives, and that's going to vary quite a bit depending on the program and the group that we're talking about.
Well, great. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been discussing some new data gathering and analysis programs to better determine tropical forest impacts for species and other preservation goals. And we've been learning this from our guests, and I'd like to thank him, Eric Fegraus, the Director of Information Systems at Conservation International, based in Arlington, Virginia. Thanks so much, Eric.
Great. Thank you so much, Dana.
And I'd like to thank our audience as well for joining us for this special new style of IT discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of HP-sponsored discussions. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.